Joining us now to discuss this and more is House Democratic Whip Katherine Clark of Massachusetts. Congresswoman, you heard our interview in the last block with the foreign minister of Poland and what he said, that Poland is looking at this as an act of aggression by Russia. In his view, he thinks this is making a mockery of President Trump by Russia. What should the United States do, if anything, to respond to Russia here?
Yeah, we have to take this very seriously. We have had drones and other attacks come into Poland, but this is of a different measure because this was 19 drones by all accounts and really seems much more purposeful. And the split screen here is Donald Trump welcoming Putin onto American soil, literally rolling out the red carpet for him and getting nothing, no concessions, no closer to having peace and success for our ally, Ukraine. And he has signaled over and over again that he believes Putin, that he is willing to work with him, he has a special relationship with him, and has been very critical of our NATO allies. So we are rapidly coming to a situation where, as the United States, we have to be clear about whose side we're on. We are part of NATO, and we have to be ready to come to Poland's defense and take a hard line with the dictator Putin.
What do you think about the fact that Poland is invoking Article 4 rather than Article 5?
Yeah, well, we are the only NATO country that has ever invoked Article 5. And that is something that we should remember in those grim, horrible days after 9/11, that our allies stood with us against the real terror and loss of life that we faced as a country. So Article 4 is putting everyone on notice. It is time for us to signal to Poland that we stand with them and we will be a reliable ally and member of NATO with them.
There's a lot going on in the geopolitics sphere. Also, the Israeli strike inside Qatar. I want to talk about that. Of course, Qatar is a key U.S. ally. This strike was meant to target Hamas leadership. Hamas says that key leaders were not killed in this strike. Is Israel going too far in its war with Hamas, in your view?
You know, I think we need several things here. One, we need clear information from the Trump administration on when was the U.S. notified. Did we notify our ally, Qatar? How was this?
The U.S. says it did. It was notified just before, and it was able to notify, but Qatar couldn't stop the attack.
But Congress needs a clear line of communication with this administration, whether it is on this, whether it is on the boat that they destroyed, that was, allegedly had a gang and drugs coming to the United States. But this lack of information, this lack of intelligence that is coming to Congress from this administration makes it very difficult for us to know what is really happening. And the story changes consistently as the day goes on with this administration. So we need to take all these things seriously. Obviously, Hamas is a terrorist organization that the world condemns, but also we have a large military base in Qatar. We have sailors throughout the world that depend on us abiding by international law for their safety. So we need to have clear information from our own government about what we are doing, what intelligence we knew when, and what was the signals that we were sending to our allies, whether that is Poland or Qatar or Mexico.
So then do you believe Israel went too far in its strike in Qatar?
I think we have to see what happens. Obviously, they feel that Hamas is an entity that they want to eradicate and take out of power. But this is a very different sort of incursion when we are seeing, as people are gathering to negotiate a ceasefire that we desperately need. To have them targeted is something that we have to learn more information about. And as we are looking at the entirety of this situation, what is the end game? We know that we have to remove Hamas from power, but we also have to be very aware of the humanitarian crisis that is going on and how we get that aid to people. We need to end this war. We need to make sure that Hamas is out of power. We need to get the hostages home, and we need to surge humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people. All of those things are mutual goals that we have heard with this administration. So let's get the real information and see how we can be most effective in ending this war in Gaza.
Before we go, Congresswoman, I have to ask you about this Atlantic article with an excerpt from Kamala Harris's forthcoming book, where she writes about the 2024 presidential campaign. She says, "It's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that like a mantra. In retrospect, I think it was recklessness. The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. It should have been more than a personal decision." Do you agree with her?
You know, I look forward, this is to reading what she wrote, to hearing her insights into it. But I'll tell you the lesson that we have learned from the 2024 election, and that is that most households in this country are unable to meet the basics. They are struggling under the crush of the cost of living in this country. And that is our focus as House Democrats. And as we are rapidly coming up to the end of our fiscal year, which means a shutdown, if the majority, the Republicans in the House, the Senate, they own the White House, do not come up with a budget plan that is centered around the American people. We are there fighting against the crisis in health care that they have inflicted on the American people with their cuts to Medicaid, to Medicare, to the ACA, and taking away those tax credits. So that is the lesson that we have learned from that election, and that is the fight that we are having in Congress today.
So tell us a little bit more about what Democrats are going to do with the budget fight, because obviously what happened before, Democrats in the House were upset with Chuck Schumer in the Senate about how he handled that situation. How do you see this playing out this time around?
You know, we are clear-eyed. We are on the side of the American people, and they are telling us 60% of households unable to afford the basics. That means people feel that the system is rigged against them because the system is rigged against them. And what we are seeing from Republicans is they talk a great game about let's protect Medicaid. They write letters to the speaker. They go home and say, I won't vote for it. But every single time, they put Donald Trump and what he wants over their own constituents. 15 million people are going to lose health care. Health care costs are going to go up for everyone. If the Republicans want to come to the table, if they want to have a bipartisan discussion on how we do better and meet this moment of crisis for the American people, we will be at that table with them. Okay. If they are going to continue on the path they are of making everything more expensive, then they can pass this budget on their own.
All right, House Democratic Whip Katherine Clark, thank you.